All right, welcome back to the Rocket Launcher podcast. This is episode 88. I am your host, Supreme King. As always, I am joined with my co-host, and his name is.
It's your guy Omazes.
How you doing, man? How are you today?
I'm good. I'm chilling, relaxing, enjoying
That's
games.
what's up.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I want to address the people. So I guess I had a small hiatus. I technically to the people I've had a hiatus for over a year now, probably because of like not that many solo vids. But the podcast was postponed temporarily because I had real life situations I had to deal with that came first. Unfortunately, that's just what we got to do. But I am back. And things are going to be back to normal-ish. I'm going to try to record some more solo stuff. But a big topic for the podcast itself is probably going to be HellBlade, and we're going to talk about that in a second. I didn't feel the need to make a solo video on that particular topic in itself because there's a whole lot of it that's cringing to me that we're going to get into it anyway here. But yeah, I had a little bit of a hiatus, and funny enough, within the hiatus, I got to deal with the other side of gaming that we usually don't hear about, which is the people who game off the grid in a way, quote unquote, or just with no internet. Everybody that we complain about with the de novo stuff and everything. So I got a taste of that for at least a week, and I got to say, it does kind of suck how they have all these internet checks for everything, for stuff that you bought, for stuff that's supposed to be a solo game that you can play offline. Apparently you can't do that on everything, or even if you do, not everything is like logged in correctly. Like for example, Persona 5 here, I did finish the game, but like half of my hours are actually missing off of my profile. And then like one trophy is missing technically so far. But I am going to play it again on New Game Plus. I will show footage of it in the future as well as what you see right here. But I'm going to keep it relatively spoiler free in a way, with some, things here and there you can't really help. But you will see more footage from this in the future. But I finished this game. My co-host finished this game months ago. And I started Persona 4. But I do just want to start off by giving Persona 5 its flowers for what it is. It took a very long time for me to finish it. But I did finish it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the true ending, so I'm going to go back for the true ending over time. And I think it was still a dope game. It's a game that I wouldn't have normally played because I'm not too big into turn-based combat, basically. But I've grown into it over the past 2 years through something like Persona 5 and revisiting some of those Pokemon games, and then also Digimon. So the turn-based stuff I'm kind of more sold on right now. I'm going ahead and playing Persona 4 Golden. Any quick words you want to say about Persona 5 while we got it on the screen?
Persona 5 was my life while I was playing it, bro. Like, this was my game. I loved it. I missed the characters. It's that weird feeling when I was done with it, because I had put so much time in it that I felt like empty. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm about to do next, because this was my life. I'm surprised I didn't just jump straight into Persona 4 right then and there. But yeah, great game. I love it.
Yeah, I think I still might talk briefly about this game on a solo vid, but I did jump directly into Persona 4. I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to just go straight to Strikers. I downloaded Strikers, and I am going to play Strikers and Tactica relatively soon. Strikers I don't own. I actually have through PS Plus, so I am going to get to that like very quickly. But I'm playing like Bloodborne at the same time, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, Persona 4 is still good. It's not as good as 5 so far, but that's to be expected because Persona 4's timeline is like back in 2011. and I'm pretty sure the development for that was obviously before that as well. And it was originally a Vita game, so it's a little dated, but it's still pretty fun. The approach to it in the beginning though is more like a horror game almost. Like I was like not expecting some of the horror themes that it was going with, but yeah, it's still dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, Persona 5 for me, it reminded me of like some of my earlier years. I almost want to say childhood, but it's not necessarily childhood, but like some of the times where like I would have my group of friends that we would hang out with somewhere. We have our personalities and everything. Sometimes you would clash here and there, but it was still relatively like just good memories and good time. And it kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of that here a little bit when you start to develop this bigger group, even though their focus is still like going in this other world and fighting all these monsters and stuff, in palaces and all of that. They still have these bonds that they were growing. And it just reminded me of like some of my friends group. It also reminded me a little bit of the friends group from where you and me used to work and everything, like how we
Yeah.
would be in the library and stuff after everything we were doing, or like the Friday afternoons and stuff like that. Like it reminds me of that, you know what I'm saying? If you took out the turn-based combat,
Yeah.
you don't really
Well,
see
I don't
that.
know what you was doing in your free time, but for me, I was fighting. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. I get what you say, like the bonds you're making with people, and then like everybody kind of has their own like you could break off into different pairs and everything like that. It's like not awkward. It's their own dynamics, but then like it's a
Yeah.
giant group. It all still come together. Yeah,
Yeah, because even with where we was, there was so many of us that was like that, and we would break off into a group in the library of like 5 or 6 people at a time, and it was always like 2 or 3 that was interchanging. And like we would probably talk
yep.
about that off air, to get in some specifics. But I remember so many people that did go back to that spot that was my spot initially, over the course of like a year or so, or like more than a year. But like when you think about all the people who was there who you wouldn't even think would hang out with us there, it's like Persona kind of reminded me of those type of things. So it was a pretty cool experience. And that's why I was really quick to jump into 4, and I'm definitely going to buy 3 once I'm done with it. Hopefully they come out with a version that's all on disc. I don't know if they're gonna do it, because I know they have their DLC stuff. But yeah, I'm sold on the Persona series. I might even go back to 1 and 2 through emulation or something.
Hey,
That was on the PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, I believe. It might look really bad, but I might be able to do that on the Steam Deck. I can't do nothing else on the Steam Deck, but I might be able to do that if it's just emulation. Um, but yeah, it was pretty dope. It was really dope. But yeah, I guess the footage is still gonna go for like 5 more minutes. So I guess I'll address a different topic real quick. Unless you got something else you want to say about Persona real quick. Anything?
no, no, because then this podcast will never end.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't. Yeah. But yeah, for anybody out there, one thing I would say is if you're gonna get into this series, even if you don't really want to, it might benefit you to look up how to get the true endings before you start. Write it down somewhere, and then wait until you probably forgot most of that, and then play the game, I guess, so you don't really spoil it for yourself. Unfortunately, like when I played it straight up, and I was just trying to avoid that because I just wanted to see everything. And I think I did get the best experience. The only problem is I didn't get enough to get my full platinum trophy.
So I
Um,
will say for me, it wasn't like when I looked up like what I needed to do, it didn't spoil. Like I guess for the guide that I followed, because I
yeah,
wanted the true ending like for my first playthrough, it didn't spoil the story or anything. It just said prioritize certain people. It was like
yeah,
prioritize these people, and there are certain guys who'd be like, at this date say this. But the one that I was reading, it really was just like say no. Like it was like what you would have anyways. And
Yeah.
like certain parts, it was like say no, and it was like prioritize these three people. Make sure you're like max friendship by this date. Oh, and that was
Yeah.
it. It was like you have that's what you have to do. And then it was like if you want to know why or more specifics, you can go to the spoiler part below. But just do this. So other than prioritizing them, everything else in the game was my choice to do. So
Yeah, I would say Persona 4 Golden is similar. The only thing about it was there's like one particular part where there's like a series in the conversation you have to pick certain choices, and if you don't pick it the exact way, you won't get the true ending or something. It was a
also
little bit
true.
more strict. I was just like, man, like that's kind of crazy. The
Yeah,
only thing about it is it's just for anybody who was going to get into this that didn't get into this before. It's such a long game with all the dialogue that if you didn't get it, you still have to redo it and go through it again. And it's a long process to go through unless you're
yes.
like really skipping a bunch of cutscenes and stuff. And what I've learned is that when you go through it the second time, there's a whole lot more detail there throughout it that you would catch on to that you wouldn't have caught on to the first time. So I don't even want to like skip the detail or skip the cutscenes or anything. But if you go through the second time and you skip the cutscenes, apparently it should take you like 30 to 40 hours. But that's still a full game's length for a lot of games. Like that's still a long process. So just be
Yeah,
prepared to really sit with this game almost a full year. The game in game is a full year, but you would sit with this a really long time if you're not playing through it like consecutively and you're playing other things. Because that's how I was. I played a whole lot of other stuff while playing this, and
I
so it
was
took me a long
when I
time.
played. I was playing this. Uh, yeah. I was just mainly. I was like logging in to play this. I was like,
Yeah,
if I have to give advice, I would say this. This is not the for the most part. This is not the type of game where you can just I'm gonna just play it real quick for 30 minutes, get to the next cutscene, and cut it off. This
yeah,
is this ain't that. At one point, I tried to do that, and I was like, let me play this little bit of extra part, and then I'll cut it off. And got stuck in what felt like an hour long cutscene. So
yeah.
where
It
I still had to make
really.
choices and talk, but it was long. So yeah,
I just remember there was one point where I think it transitions from like the Persona 5 to Persona 5 Royal ending if you did a certain thing at a certain amount of time. And there's a lot of heavy dialogue, a lot of like revealing the true culprit kind of thing. And I thought I was gonna be done with this game. I was like I was gonna play it for like 2 hours at a time. And I started at something like 9 p.m. or something. Like I'm gonna play it to like 11, maybe 12, go to bed. When that thing happened, it woke me up and I was glued to the screen. And by the time
yeah,
it was over, it was something like 2:30 in the morning. I was just glued. I was
yeah.
heavily into it. I was like, yo, this really just happened right in front of me. So like yeah, there's be a lot of moments like that. You would definitely want to like start earlier in the day on an off day. And set some real time aside for this. That's why I say it will really take a long time when you're playing it. But yeah, I guess we could move on. It didn't go to Stellar Blaze footage just yet, so I do want to mention one thing that was going to be really, really short. One of my other topics. I'm big into emulation. I got the retro handhelds that were resembling Game Boy Advance, like yeah, Advances, or just regular Game Boy Colors. There's one of them that I got that was called the RG35XX. So this particular machine, they have what they call the 2024 edition, and it's still the same price, which was around $60, but this one is a little bit better. Better battery life, and also it comes pre-installed with the custom firmware called Garlic OS that I think everybody should get. So once you do buy it, all you have to do is just drag and drop ROMs on it, and then you're good to go. I have the purple one that's like kind of see-through that resembles some of the old school Nintendo 64 looking controllers and stuff. And I'm thinking about getting another one just for a different color, just because I really like them. They're cheap, they're fun, and you put so many games on there from the past. Like it's ridiculous how many you would put on there. But yeah, it's about $60, and you can find them on websites like keepretro.com. I would suggest going there and looking in the description and making sure the battery life says 2600 mAh. I don't know what mAh is, but make sure the battery is that. And you'll have the updated version. It ships in 24 hours, and don't buy their case. Go off of Amazon and buy an external hard drive case. It fits in there perfectly, and those are like $8. But yeah. It was something that I mentioned a while back, right, when we were talking about the Playdate and stuff. I was like, here's something that you might actually like more for a very cheaper price. That's really, really cool. So those things are still $60. I still recommend it. And yeah. Now, Stellar Blade is on the screen. Big heavy topic. I think we can talk about this right now. So Stellar Blade, I went ahead and played the demo. I'm going to give you my impressions on that, as well as the cringy news about this game that's been in the news for like the past week or so. Yeah, so Stellar Blade as a game itself, it's like once we cut out all the other foolishness, is it fun? Is it good? So before I get into the long version, I'll give you the short version. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's good. However, be aware it is a Souls-like clone at the end of the day. Unfortunately, I just got to go there. So it's not going to be as good as From Software titles. It's not going to be as obviously as good as Elden Ring. It's very flashy. It's a little bit quicker, but the same idea is there, where you got to watch your health. You're mainly a defensive fighter, even though you can go hack and slash at the guy for a while. It's very, very heavily dependent on how good you are at blocking and trying to parry. And you still lock onto the character the same way you would at any kind of Souls-like game. And you fight them, you wait for them to hit or try to hit you, and you get out the way, and then you slice. You do all of that. I will say it is as good as some of the Souls-like clones, but I don't think it's as good as some of the original Souls games, obviously. There are moments where I think, how when you hit a monster or something, like they drop loot or whatever,
Yeah.
and like if you're close enough to the loot, it usually like you just kind of auto absorbs it. Like they don't do that in this game. You have to literally stand next to it and then press R2 to pick it up. And
Okay, I'm
that
game like that.
yeah, it was a little annoying after a while, because like the stuff, like you could literally just leave it and not know.
Well, that
like,
reminds me of Assassin's Creed
mhm.
and everything. Like I had to you have to pick things up, otherwise you just run right past it. I've been playing Assassin's Creed 3, and it's like you have to loot enemies because they don't actually drop stuff. So you have to take out enemies and then stand over them and loot their body.
Yeah, I think this footage is actually the second piece of footage instead of the first piece, because I think the first piece I only recorded 15 minutes. This one goes for a full 30 minutes because it's the boss fight. But the first 15 minutes, I believe, is just more of a tutorial-ish kind of thing. But what you'll notice with this game is it still fights very similar to some of the other Souls-like clones. It's very, because with Souls-like clones, they like to focus on being a little bit more flashier, and they try to be more like either more difficult or less difficult depending on the game. Wolong Final Dynasty or Wolong Final Dynasty, I think is what it's called. That one was a little bit more flashier, where something like Lies of P was shinier. I don't think it was flashy, but it was a slightly on the harder side. You know what I'm saying? And so this one is like, it's almost like they wanted to give you the ability to be somewhat like Devil May Cry, as close to what you can allow while still being in the limitation of being a Souls game. As weird as that might sound. Um Oddly enough, it does remind me a lot of Cold Vein in a way. Because Cold Vein also had a lot of that fan servicey stuff. But you mainly picked your character, you named your character, and all that other stuff. But Stellar Blade's like appeal is mainly for the girl, right? But if you're somebody, let's say Stellar Blade is $70, right? You don't want to pay $70. What is your alternative? Two games come to mind. Cold Vein obviously is gonna come to mind. And then also I believe the game is called Scarlet Nexus. I have it, yeah, I have it right here.
Okay, yeah, Scarlet Nexus, the
Yeah.
anime-ish looking fighter game.
So yeah, if you are somebody who's like, you don't really like the Souls formula that much because you don't like getting hammered to death and you don't feel like you're doing as much offense, you might want to choose Scarlet Nexus. It's a game that's been on Game Pass forever, but I believe the physical copy of it shouldn't be more than $20 if you go off of like Amazon or something, or you might even be able to find it cheaper than that used, especially if you trade something in like at GameStop. But I would say like for Stellar Blade, it's fun, but it's not $70 fun. Unfortunately, a lot of games are going to be that way. I think it's more of a wait for a sale kind of thing. You don't have to wait for that deep of a sale. I think this is a cool buy at like $30 to $35 if you just really want to buy it. But I'm not sure if you really want to pay full $70 for this because it's just not as good as something like Elden Ring, for example. It's obviously just not. It's not. Maybe it wasn't trying to be that, but I just feel like if you're gonna pay the full money, you should get the best of the best. You shouldn't get something that's trying to imitate the best. That's just kind of how I feel about that. It's still fun, very flashy. I will say the button for doing blocks and parries, that's L1. Your finger is going to be on fire, like while you're playing that game. Like that L1 finger, which is going to be your index finger on your left hand side, on fire by the time you're done with the boss fight. Like seriously, it's just like you're gonna rely on trying to block so much, and it got to the point where my finger was feeling like it was about to blister a little bit. It was kind of hurting. While everything else was just like I was just normally pressing a button here and there, but that particular one, it was just like, man. If you don't hit the block button before the character does a certain like animation to hit you, you're never gonna break their animation basically. Unlike some of the other games, like you can really parry and it'll break the animations. Like you can't really do that if you don't time it correctly. It's harder to do that. So if they already started the animation to hit you before you can block, you're gonna get hit. Like there's just no way around it. But if you catch it beforehand, you'll do some sweet stuff like here where you just jump behind the person. I was able to figure that one out a lot, but some of the other ones was like, no, I'm just getting hit. And that's why this footage took me 30 minutes because I just kept getting hit because I couldn't time it correctly. It's very reliant on that. But Souls games is like that. I'm playing Bloodborne right now. I guess I can mention it within this. Bloodborne, I mean, that's considered one of the best. A lot more polished than this, obviously, because it's older. But that's another game I would probably recommend over this if you're just waiting for this to go on sale. You might have a better time with that initially. Where this one is just, you just got a half naked chick and you just being really, really flashy. It's just, that's pretty much the edge that you get from it. But the core of it, if you're somebody who really plays Souls games, this one is really right in the middle. It's not terrible. It's not like bad. It's just right in the middle. It's not going to be better than some of the other games in the past 2 years. Yeah, but I'll talk more about it. But why don't you tell me some of the news you got or your impressions, or not impressions, but because I don't think you didn't play the demo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but your perception of the whole news surrounding this character, surrounding everything about this character.
So I didn't get to play it yet, but it's
Yeah,
been popping up on my social media feed nonstop because of everybody arguing about the way she's designed. And
yeah,
I feel bad because the creator, I think he's getting annoyed, and he straight up even just like he sent out a message, and I just saw it, where he was basically like, "All right, I get it. For Western game design, right? Y'all have to think a lot about like diversity, everything, and I respect that. And we don't really have to worry about that over here when we design our games. So
hmm,
really, when people play this, I just want them to think that this is a fun action game. That's it. Like he was just trying to make a fun action game,
yeah,
and it's not like their women characters don't. They always look like right. Like, this is what they designed, and for some reason, everybody's going crazy. And like first, people had to be like, now that's a real woman compared to, and then fill in Aloy or Fable, any of those, and then other people had to cut in defenses. No real woman looks like that. And then IGN is what really made this blow up because IGN France, which IGN has made a distinction to try and say we don't control what they say and they don't represent us, even though they use our name.
yeah. I don't understand that.
But
I'm like, it's
and it's just
IGN at the end of the day.
yeah. But
So
basically, IGN said the character looks like it was designed. Originally, I saw the original one, and the original translation of the tweet said the character was designed. And now they're saying we didn't say was, it was looked like. But the character looked like it was designed pretty much by an incel who's never seen a real woman. And everybody's like, one, the director's married. Two, his wife does character designs, and she designs characters like this. Three, Eve is based off of a real Korean model who came
yeah,
in and did the scans for it and everything like that. So they're like, no, this is what a real woman looks like, which then of course drove into the huge political arguments that it gets into that I don't even want to like, care about. But it ended up tying into which I can bring up now, Microsoft thing where they gave kind of guidelines
yeah,
for developers as and it doesn't sound like it's like the end all be all, but it's like here's some things to think about when you make a game because according to them, and I we talked about this off air where they say that this is research and I'm interested to see this research because I don't think it's accurate, but they're saying that 57% of players in the gaming market don't play specific games because they feel like it wasn't made for them. So it's this idea that they have to try and make games that like you want to play a game that looks like you. And in my head, I'm like, well, if you make a game that looks like a specific person, then that's alienated the rest of your 57% who say it don't look like me. So that means you would forcefully try and make every game with a character creator. But
yeah,
besides that, like it doesn't make sense what they're trying to argue, and it also doesn't make sense if you're saying the majority of the players don't play it if they can't identify with the character, yet everybody plays Call of Duty. Like that was the whole we can't sell Call of Duty because everybody plays it, and it's like that's first person, right? Like or everybody plays NBA 2K, and it's like, are they playing it because there are multiracial basketball players, or is it because it's basketball? Like it's
yeah,
I don't know, it's weird, but apparently for EA, part of their thing was saying, uh, "Are you telling new stories or sharing new perspectives within the product experience?" That I like. Like, are you telling something new or is it a rehash? But then it's like, do all your characters or player depictions look the same? What steps have you taken to make sure things are represented authentically and respectfully? Do you think if you showed this to somebody of that community, will they feel proud of it, or are they going to think you're like mocking them? Are you reinforcing any negative gender stereotypes? So part of that was like, uh, are they doing gender like barriers, or are the female characters equal in skill and ability to the male peers, or are the female clothing like are they wearing like armor that barely covers themselves. There's an old meme where like a male puts on this like armor and it's like full, takes it off because he doesn't wear it and drops it on the ground. And a
Yeah.
girl picks it up, and when she puts on the armor, it's just uh like her whole stomach is exposing and her legs are exposed and everything, so it's like barely covering anything, and it's supposed to be the same armor piece. Uh so it's like they're saying, are you doing that, or like make sure you avoid it? And I see all this stuff, and then all the people arguing over Stellar Blade, and it's like there was barely anybody talking about whether it was just a good game. And it's like, why is this our focus and not games just working? Games coming out, the price tag for games, is it justifying the cost? Instead of like everyone having to feel like, does this look real? Like, is it fun? Is it fun? I
Yeah.
didn't play Armored Core because the robots look real. Like, is it fun? Like, none of the cars that you could drive as in Rocket League look really like a real car. Like, but you still play Rocket League. I played Ratchet and Clank Rifts Apart, and I know we had different experiences on that game. I really liked that game, like a lot. Rifts Apart, I didn't look like
Hmm.
any of them. I don't look like a Lombax, right? Like, but I still played it. Uh, so it's weird to me that this is always this focus. But yeah, everybody online is complaining because apparently the Eve character is hot, even though it's based off of an actual hot model.
Yeah, she do
And
look good. She look good. I'll admit it.
it's always weird for me personally to always say where it's like it's an animated character and it's like it's hot. And it's like, but but yeah, the character model's hot.
Yeah,
The
that's a big
model
part
it's
of.
based off of is really hot too.
Yeah,
And it's
it's a
okay.
big part of the like the reason this game has the traction that it does, just because I think it's more the discourse around it than it is just her herself. But
Yeah.
um
But you know what? Real quick, why can't the protagonist be hot? Like, are we saying hot people can't do stuff? Like, why not? Like, if
yeah,
you make the protagonist hot, why not? Why can't, like, if it's a fantasy world, why can't the hot protagonist also parkour and use a giant sword? Why not?
the thing about it too though is like for the people who wanted to just like gawk at her a little bit, as you can see from this gameplay footage, you got to really focus on that enemy. Like you can't
Yeah.
really, you ain't gonna have the time to be doing that despite what outfits that she has in the game or whatever. Like you got to
Speaking of,
focus on the fight. Yeah.
that nude costume, they have a colored costume that's like tan and brown and it looks basically like nude.
Yeah.
Like costume on her. The developer keeps saying, please stop only using that costume. It makes the game harder because it disables her shield function. So like
Yeah.
apparently she has like a shield, but if you're wearing that colored armor, the shield doesn't work, which means now you can't block. So it makes the game much harder if you stick to that outfit. So even he is like, please don't. Like honestly it does feel like he's like, I made this game and people are blowing up about the wrong thing, and he seems like he's not liking it.
Yeah, and I think it's just more, it's people just being weird as well. But from somebody who played it, like you can't focus on that too much. There was like in the first my first gameplay footage that's gonna be shown next week. There was a moment where I got to the point where I was able to do the whole go up and down the stairs thing as well. And like I did part of it as tongue in cheek just for the video, but at the same time it's like I'm more focused on just playing the game. The whole time I was directly comparing it in my head to Cold Vein, more than anything, just because it's still kind of the same thing. You die, you go back to that same checkpoint, and you got to run all the way back to the boss fight or run through whatever area you're in. Um, Cold Vein, if you are somebody, let's say you are somebody who really does like the fan service stuff and the anime stuff, and you're not really trying to focus on the Souls aspect, like that comes second to the fan service and stuff. Like you are one of those people who just want to see it. Cold Vein is probably the game for you over Scarlet Nexus because that game still had it in there. It was still flashy anime style Souls like as well. And the character that comes to mind, I think her name was Io. Io is like like complete fan service. Like the second you see her, from the voice actress to like the way that they like had her look and everything, her outfits, all of it, she was complete fan service. And she still played like just like how you would in a Souls like game. She was an assist character, but you still played your own character. But even if, I think if you picked a girl, like if you made a girl, you could do her real fan servicey like this too. So that game I've also seen as low as like at one point $7 digital. But on average you're gonna find it for like 15. I think you could probably get away with playing with that for a while before going to this, because this is still gonna be $70. But yeah, Stellar Blades, the fan service stuff was so, the reaction to it to me was cringy. Initially when I first saw this, I thought what everybody else thought, which was that, oh, it's probably more of a Bayonetta clone. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what everybody thought. Like, oh, this is like PlayStation's Bayonetta. And then Bayonetta 3 was also announced around the same time, and then that one actually did come out around the holiday season, if I'm not mistaken, that year. And it was alright for what it was. But this game, upon its release, well, its release hasn't come out yet, but it's getting ready to come out, but its demo release, you find out it's a semi-difficult Souls game. Unless you were one of those people who really got turned on by Elden Ring, when Elden Ring was like the game of the year, when you play this, it might actually turn you off if you're not into Souls like games as it is. Because just like with this boss battle, I die and I got to keep going back, just like every other Souls game. And that might not be the game for you, because despite the girl being hot or whatever, you're gonna get the tar beat out of you, basically. Because that's what Souls games are. They beat you down until you adapt and you understand and you get better. You quote unquote get good, right? It's get good culture. So just be aware of that. There's one other thing too. Let's say you do want to play a brand new game, but you're not into the flashy fan service stuff and you don't want to play the old stuff that I mentioned, or you've already played it. Look out for the game called Flintlock. I've mentioned that in the past as well. That one kind of looked like it was like a little bit more inspired by recent God of War games like 2018 and then Ragnarok, because you play as a girl with an axe, right? But it's still the same formula where you're a defensive fighter in a Souls-like environment, but at the same time you're still playing a female protagonist. And if you had an issue with her clothes, or Eve's clothes right here, the Flintlock girl is fully clothed. There's nothing hanging out anywhere, nothing jiggling anywhere. She's wearing armor, and it's a black girl with an axe. So it's another female protagonist, and she's still doing somewhat of the same stuff, where like in this game there's a lot of electricity all around, where I believe with Flintlock, from some of the gameplay and stuff that I was seeing, it's not so much electricity unless you have that power. Other than that, you really fancy with your axe, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna see some other stuff once that game does come out. But the key thing is, like, she is fully clothed, right? For everybody who's got something negative to say about this game, Stellar Blade, based on Eve's looks, I better see you support Flintlock, because Flintlock was the girl who's fully armored, and she is not, she's not revealing, but the game is, from what I've seen, is kind of similar. It's still Souls-like, it's still flashy. So I need everybody to show up for at least one of these two. But don't just tear down the game just because of what's in it, and then you're not going to play anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Because most of the people complaining don't even...
Yeah, you're not even in the space to be in the space. Like, I could see if you was playing something else at the same time, but some of the people who complain about this stuff, they're not even gamers. You know what I mean? It's like, at least take a look at Flintlock, at least take a look at Scarlet Nexus, if you had an issue with just like, titties hanging out or something like that. But you know what I'm saying? But it's like, where's your alternatives at? For anybody who's upset, what are you playing in place of Stellar Blade, or what are you looking forward to in place of Stellar Blade? You know what I'm saying? Because I still kind of have an issue at the end of the day with the people who jump into the space to infiltrate it with their own like agendas and stuff, and then get mad when you like something that doesn't really go with their agenda. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, it would be different if you had a game that you would say you should be playing something more like this, but we haven't heard any alternatives in any of the arguments and stuff with this.
Goodbye,
Um,
Vault so high.
yeah, like I gave a couple examples here, right? Play Code Vein, play Flintlock, or play Scarlet Nexus. You know what I'm saying? Some of these journalists wouldn't even know about that. You know what I mean?
I
That
don't know.
that's my issue with it. But yeah, other than that, like, it's just a game. At the end of the day, it's gonna come and go. We'll be talking about something else in about 5 to 6 months. I don't even think, like, unlike some of the other games, like we talked about how Power World was dominating in January, and then I can't even think of his name right now. February's game. What was that game? The one everybody looked like
Oh,
Darth Vader.
the
Helldivers.
Helldivers too.
Helldivers. That's what it was.
It's still
Helldivers.
going strong.
Yeah.
What I
Um.
love is their marketing. Real quick, so Helldivers 2, whoever's handling their social media stuff, doing
Mm,
great. Like them and that TV show The Boys, what they do is when they're on social media, Boys doesn't treat the show like it's a TV show. They treat it
mm,
like it's real life. So when they tweet out stuff, like rather than saying trailer drop next week, they'll say something like Vought has a special announcement next week. And when they introduce the trailer, it comes off like an official, like Vought, like representative talking. Like they
mm,
treat everything like it's real, and everybody in the comment sections uh, play along and treat things like it's real as well. So if somebody's like, "This was my favorite hero," it's like, "Oh, you're a sympathizer" or something like that. Like they'll treat it all real. And Helldivers has been doing the same thing, where they were updating the game with like flying bugs, and somebody's like, "Yo, there's flying bugs in the game," and the developers are like, "You're just that sounds like bug sympathizers. You're making stuff up."
mm.
And it was actually in the game, and it was slowly building. So yeah, shout out to the social media team.
Yeah, I wished like wrestling would get back to that. I feel like the discourse around wrestling is all behind the scenes stuff, almost like everybody's a booker. But
Yeah. Who
um
used to do that was Kevin Owens.
yeah.
He was the main one where I will always remember the tweet where somebody was like, I got to meet Kevin Owens, and he showed like a picture with him, and it was like real cool guy, blah blah blah. And Kevin responded like, nice Photoshop skills, buddy. Like it was just playing it up and continuing the role. He didn't like switch out or anything like that. Yeah, I do miss it.
Yeah. Um well, I think we can move on from the Stellar Blade talk. I think it's showing the little trailer part where they try to get you to, like, I guess, sell you on the game. I will buy the game at some point. But I don't think that it's a $70 purchase for me. A part of me did want to get it to be like, yeah, I'm gonna stick it to everybody who's like doing too much, basically. But I got way too much on my plate right now, like multiple Persona games and Bloodborne, and a whole bunch of other stuff that was on my like list of games I haven't played yet. We were gonna play Borderlands 3 at some point. There's just too much stuff going on, so I'm not really too worried about this. This doesn't really have that like stop everything that you're doing to play this kind of vibe. But it is still fun. It's a fun game. My biggest gripe though is just it really did hurt my left hand finger a little bit while playing,
Oh,
and it's like, yo, this is the demo. Imagine going through the full game and you gotta,
you'll
deal with
get
that.
strong.
Yeah, maybe I have to wear like the little glove thing, or maybe I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so it comes out at the end of this month. Everybody can go play the demo as much as they want. I encourage everybody to play the demo. Don't listen to all these other like websites and stuff. If they have demos, you should go for the demo first. The demo should trump everything because that's where you get to form your own opinion of the stuff. And then you can go from there, right? But yeah, we can move on. I do want to mention, I guess your what's the name footage is on the screen, but let me do the halfway stuff first, and then we can
Okay.
go to that. So yeah, at the halfway point, I usually just give a recognition to Epic Games, our unofficial sponsor. This is where we highlight free games that they give to you that is 100% free. You don't need to have a credit card or debit card with your profile. You just need to create a profile under Epic Games. And then you can play everything once you get a PC if you don't have it already, or one of the handhelds, right? Cool list this week. Funny enough though, I think they double dipped here because I had already had a couple of these games through them, as well as I had already owned one of the other ones. But the Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition is
It
one
was
of the
one of the
ones.
days over Christmas they gave it away as well. Because it
Yeah,
was a big Christmas gift. But if you did not pick it up then, pick it up. This is a great game.
yeah. So it's available from now to April 11th. That was one of them that I had, and then I guess the other game to tie with this is called Thief. That one's a little bit older. I believe I bought that somewhere. I don't know which system, but I think it might have been Xbox or it could have been. Yeah, I know it was cheap when I got it, but here's another version of it. So this one's the 100% free version. And I believe on April 11th to April 18th, they're giving away Ghost Runner. Um, I believe Ghost Runner was given away under them as well, or PlayStation. I know PlayStation Plus gave away a copy, but I think they gave away a copy here as well
They
before.
did.
But yeah, so those are your Epic games, and I believe there was one other thing I wanted to mention. There's an indie game that I have mentioned in the past really quickly, if in like 60 seconds in one of my videos where I showcased like a whole bunch of indie games. I'm gonna start doing those again because those were fun. There's a game called Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom. Very very throwback looking game from like N64 era, but it's on PC. It has a demo on PC under Steam, and the official game itself comes out on April 9th, 2024. This, 3 or 4 days from now. But they didn't show a price for it yet, which I thought was interesting. But I don't think this is going to cost that much because it really looks retro. It's like super retro, completely fun, just pure fun game. Don't overthink it. It's nothing but just you playing like a little crazy taxi kind of thing. But it's just a alternative to that, and it looks very N64. But I'm big into the retro games and emulation, and so this is something that I'm gonna get. Probably not immediately on April 9th, but I'm gonna get it at some point. But it's another demo. So yeah, two demos, big demo, Stellar Blade, small demo is Yellow Taxi on PC. Um, Stuff that I want you guys to look out for. I did also want to mention for physical games inside of retail stores. I think I'm gonna keep this going during this part, just to give an update. It looks like they're still putting physical games in the stores for all three systems as of right now. From what I was seeing, it's not as much, but it's a few games here and there. I did see like a full stack for Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5. But a big game that I noticed was Suicide Squad. Suicide Squads that came out like after they made all of that news, but they were fully stocked on that game on both Xbox and PlayStation for what I was seeing in there. Um The Peach game is a brand new game under Nintendo. I did see them put a couple copies of those as well in there. So maybe they're not transitioning as hard as they said they were going to transition out of physical media, but the gaming division seems to be still just as strong in all three categories. So um, Amazon is still going to be your best bet for your best sales, but um, your local retail stores are still going to have some stuff there, basically. But yeah, we can move on. Um, I have Baldur's Gate footage from you on the screen, and you had some Baldur's Gate stuff you want to talk about, or technically you don't want to talk about, according to what I have here. You want to address that?
There's gonna be no Baldur's Gate 4 or Baldur's Gate 3 DLC. So Larian has said like we'll keep patching and updating the game as we need to, but we're gonna pass Dungeons and Dragons back on to Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, who owns it, and like we're moving. So Larian, they don't know what they're gonna make yet, but no more Baldur's Gate for the time being.
I find that a little interesting. Why they would just say they're not gonna make another one? Because
Honestly, oh god.
no, I was just gonna say you would think that would be like their bread and butter initially, especially in a landscape where we're like where it seems like the developers are, lack of better terms, like desperate for money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
But yeah.
think he was kind of implying they put their all in this game and they don't have any more story to tell. So
Uh,
they're like, they've been so they've been so passionate about not being cash grabby
hmm
that I wonder if they're afraid like if the next game is bad, it comes off as them just trying to make a cash grab, build off of Baldur's Gate 4 or Baldur's Gate 3, or maybe the production just was a lot. It took a lot out of them, and they're just like, we don't do that. That's too long. What I hope is if they make like a DC game or a Power Rangers game.
But something like
Like,
Baldur's Gate 4 doesn't have to come out right away. I mean, they could treat it like Witcher 3 to Witcher 4. There's some
true.
like time in between, you know.
That's why I don't think they've fully given up. I think they're trying to say we don't know what we're working on next, but for sure the next thing we're doing is not Baldur's Gate 4 or DLC for Baldur's Gate 3.
Plus, with like AAA gaming, you notice like the average AAA game, you're still looking at 5, 6 years, seven
Yep.
years, maybe even longer than that. And so they could develop the story as much as they develop the gameplay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Take as
So
much
we'll
time as
see.
you need. Grand Theft Auto is another one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like you talking like 2 generations before you get to the next one. So I mean, take as much time as you need. I don't think they should feel pressured. Um,
Yeah.
that's another thing.
I
I
want
think.
them to make a DC game though. I think I told you off air that like between Marvel's Midnight Suns, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, like Marvel was eating good, and DC after the Batman trilogy, we've got what Gotham Knights, and Suicide Squad killing itself. Like we ain't got nothing. Like give us something. So I think if Larry takes it, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Are you done with Baldur's Gate? Or do you want to mention the Suicide next? You want to go there, or do you have anything else?
Yeah, so that was it for Baldur's Gate. However, yeah, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is just making more mistakes. So the game is already competitive, and if they're ending like the end of the game, the way it's set up is you kind of just do the same stuff over and over and over again. That was their idea for live service.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and apparently, for kind of a spoiler, the final boss fight of the game is just a rehash of one of the earlier boss fights, but with Brainiac. Uh, but it's just he just rehashes the same boss fight. So how you beat the earlier one is how you beat this one. Well, then they said, here's our first season pass, and of course, if you pre-order the game and all this other stuff, you get Joker for free. And the way they described was Joker was free because they want you to like really get into the game, and then hopefully you'll buy the other characters that they plan on releasing, which is weird because Joker's not actually a Suicide Squad member. but Joker's the first one. And I heard Mr. Freeze was rumored to be the next one, who was also not a Suicide Squad member.
They're
So
just villains, Batman
yeah, they're
villains.
just picking Batman villains, right? And it's just like pick Suicide Squad members. Like, but anyways, they released Joker. However, you don't get to play as Joker right away. You have to grind through like 60 missions and then redo another boss fight essentially to get Joker, or pay $10, you can unlock him early.
Hmm.
But it was something like 50 or 60 missions. Like I was watching through Angry Joe, and they like straight up counted, and it was like an egregious amount of missions. Maybe not 60, maybe 30, but I know for sure it was more than like an hour's worth of work. Like it was like regrind your way to unlock Joker so you can finally use him, just for him to play in the same style as everybody else,
Of
and you get like
course.
a comic book looking cutscene to introduce him, and then they did a little video thing to introduce them. Super disappointing. It also undermines all the Joker stuff that they did for the Arkham universe, anyways. Uh, just to like him play the same. And after you unlock him, guess what you do? You grind through more of the same stuff because it's all the same stuff over and over. So is either grind, unlock him, and grind some more to whatever, or pay $10 to get him so you don't have to grind to get him. Then you're still grinding some more. That's what they did for this game.
Hmm.
And this is where I get it because it's just why does it have to be the DC games that do this? Like, why does maybe because we had the 3 Arkham games, and they're like, all right, you had it good, now you get it bad. I don't know, but it just always sucks that it's I'm a DC fan and it's DC that goes to.
So this is
And
done. It's just like Gotham Knights, basically. It's just done.
yeah,
That's just it.
yeah, but at least Gotham Knights didn't continue to get, I guess, like worse and worse, right? Like it was just mediocre and stayed there. This is just it was bad. It got worse.
It's interesting too because this was still one of the games like when I was talking about like they made plenty of copies and have them in the retail stores. They really made sure they had a bunch of these for Suicide Squads. I
Typically,
don't.
DC fans would have went out and got it. As a DC fan, it was supposed to be like I'm gonna get it anyways, like because that's what I do. But it's just I can't. Like this
Them
game's just
boys was
bad.
just chilling on the shelf from what I was seeing,
Yeah,
but they
don't
was
nobody want
plentiful.
them.
It was plentiful. It reminded me of the AEW game where I was just like, why is there so many of them? But yeah, it's just there.
Yep.
I don't mind trying it out at some point. It's just like the other game where I was just like, it gotta go on sale. I can't like it just doesn't have the main event like it doesn't have it. It doesn't
I
feel
will
like it's this game. Like the
I will
it
pick
game.
this up around $10, like 10 or 15. I'm not spending more. It can't start with a 2. Not putting anything of $20 or more.
I think it's
It's
gonna
just
average around 20 at the very least. Once
I
it gets
better have some
old.
coupon to get it less than that because that's it.
Excuse me.
And it just sucks again because it's like this should have been a knockout game for me. I'm even a fan of the Suicide Squad. This should have been in the movie. Keep
Yeah.
praising it. The Suicide Squad. I hated the first one, but the Suicide Squad was great. And it's just how did you like mess this up? Like I don't. They're an easy group to not mess up. Like I don't understand how you do that. It is just
I think it like even though the
Rocksteady.
fans knew what they were expecting, I think there's still I remember a lot of people saying they wanted to play the A team, quote unquote. The A team is the Justice League, and I don't think that's fair, but that's just the perception. That's what people wanted, and then at the same time they didn't want it to be a shooter. Which might be bigger.
Because it
But
shouldn't have been. Because only one person on the team regularly uses guns. Like
yeah,
even out of their DLC character that they're introducing, and if Mr. Freeze is the next DLC character, he does have like a cold like blaster, uh, that he doesn't always use. So even with the next 2 DLC characters, there is still only one member of the team that regularly uses guns, and there's one or 2 members of the team that never. Like I've never seen Captain Boomerang use a gun. He's always uses boomerangs. It's in his name. King Shark does not use guns at all. So it's like, why? Like, why did you try to make a generic shooter out of this? It's just I blame Warner
Fortnite, I
Bros.
guess.
Yeah, that's
That's what
why
I have
it's
to
Warner
go.
Bros. Then they're just like, yeah, we're gonna go into the live service because clearly it's the AAA part that's volatile. And it's like, no, you're just an idiot. Look, the guy in charge of
This is
Warner
still
Bros.
a
is
full
an
price
absolute
game
idiot.
too, right? This is still
Yeah,
$70.
yep,
For them to try to do all that predatorial stuff, like that's the part that's really crazy to me because we're starting to see some AAA games like come out full price and do live service stuff where initially a live service thing was like, okay, the game was free, you could just
yeah.
pick it up and just play it, and if you wanted to buy into something you could,
It had
but
to be free or discounted. Now
yeah,
it's just
we're
not full price, battle pass.
yeah, so we're seeing some of those pop up, and it's kind of bad because at the same time, the fan base doesn't really want it, and so when they don't want that, they don't get it, and then we hear all this news about another studio or something closing and laying off a bunch of people, and it's just like, well, if you gave people what they wanted to begin with, you wouldn't have been in this kind of predicament. But for some reason, everybody's got this like fixation on the live service, even though we've seen countless examples of how it's not working. Not and it's really selective. It's very, very selective what does work, and then literally everything else just doesn't. Fortnite is a huge exception, but it's just an exception. It's not the rule. Like it's one game. Fortnite is one title.
Yep.
But for some reason everybody think they can make the next
Well,
Fortnite.
like let's also think about this, right? Fortnite makes all this money. Fortnite's free.
Yeah.
Overwatch did relatively well. Overwatch 2 got messed up, but Overwatch did relatively well. If I'm mistaken, that one was free. Uh, uh, Helldivers 2 is doing great. That one costs 40, but there's nothing predatory in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the get Power World, there's nothing predatory in it. Like the games that are doing well, they don't put a bunch of predatory stuff in. And then the ones that want to like Genshin Impact and do all of the like, you got to pay for everything, they're free. And somehow these other developers are like, oh, I get it. So full price and also predatory. And it's like, what aren't you understanding? Like, how are you not understanding which one works and which one doesn't?
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I think we're still headed towards what I call and what I think a few other people call the Great Reset. I think that's gonna have to happen. The industry just has to collapse a little bit, so everybody can get level head a little bit more. Because right now,
Yeah.
it's all powered by greed, and greed is not it's not working too well for some of these games. Um, but yeah, I think we could probably move forward. There was a couple things that I was gonna mention under Microsoft that I think doesn't really have to be that long, but um I wanted to also probably throw in the PS5 Pro with this as well. I think we're in a weird spot in the industry where we're having an excitement for new hardware, but the hardware is coming quicker than the software in general. And I think for me that's somewhat of a problem because I do not think I want to see a PS5 Pro and this new Xbox Series X right now. I think that can be held off for at least 2 more years, to be honest. Even though we're closer to the halfway point, I don't feel like either system has done enough to justify the base models yet. Like
I agree.
we're almost about to jump past the base models. And I feel like we're really jumping the gun a little bit. But I will say at least there is some interesting things coming from the Xbox version because I believe there's still this teasing of a handheld. And then there's also teasing of Steam and possibly Epic being launchers under Xbox. Um, those are really big deals as far as like the Steam integration. But the handheld, I would still be curious to see what it looks like, and then not so much the power, but just what it's supposed to do that's supposed to set it aside from everything else. Because I think power wise, it couldn't possibly be that much better than the Steam Deck, the Rogue Ally, and Lenovo Legion Go. I'm pretty sure it's going to be somewhere in the same ballpark. Hopefully, obviously, better than the Steam, not Steam Deck, but Switch 2 when they come out with one. But I'm just wondering what else is it supposed to do, and that's where all these other rumors and stuff was coming out about. Well, there was leak footage of the all white Series X, which I don't think that really tells you anything. It literally looks like the Series X, but it's white. But apparently, so that's supposed to be an all digital version, and some of the specs are supposed to be better. But the big thing is just that they want to put the PC, I guess, integrate the PC into the system somehow. Which it sounds like it could be complicated, but at the same time, Microsoft owns Windows and they own the OS for Xbox, so they can figure it out. They're a $3 trillion company. They can figure it out. I don't know how long it takes them, but I think it's interesting that that could happen because there has been a long list of games that I've seen Steam versions made, and literally they've skipped Xbox. And if you're able to pull Steam up on Xbox, it's possible all those games that skipped Xbox will now be available to Xbox day one. Which is an interesting turnaround because I think that also includes PlayStation games that went to Steam. So it just, we've opened Pandora's box completely at that point if that's the case. So I'm interested to see if they're able to do that. It may actually make me rethink buying a super expensive PC. If I'm able to, like, partition the Series X into it, maybe I might buy one of those hard drives, the little not graphics card, little memory card one that they had that you could just put in there. I might buy one of those and then partition it. If it's really the case, but right now it's all speculation, it's all rumors, and we've only seen leaked footage of the white system, and technically the white system is not confirmed to have any Steam in it. But it would be interesting to see if they're able to do it. It probably seems like it's a long time coming for Xbox, simply because Microsoft owns Windows and the Xbox OS, and if you have a larger player base that's on PC already, or if you there's no reason to really alienate, really. You can really break the barriers down between the crossplay on that side, and also find a way to bring a lot of PC elements back to the Series X, which would be really, really valuable for the Series X itself. But we'll see. I'm not sure, how much of that might actually come fruition. It's just, I guess, it's still coming down to Phil Spencer. I still think that Phil Spencer runs his mouth a little too much, but there was just a lot of interviews that he keeps having where he's just playing into a lot of this stuff, and I guess he said he's open to having Steam and Epic on the Xbox. That was as much as he said, and everybody ran with it. And then there was all this stuff about the handhelds that he would just like on his Twitter page, but I don't think he's addressed verbally an actual Xbox handheld, but almost every insider says that they're making one. So eventually we might see something about it, maybe during their big June show, because that's usually the biggest show for Xbox is in the summer in about 2 months. During the E3 time, that's not E3 anymore. So I would like to see it. I guess the last piece of Xbox news that I think is a little bit more negative, that's just now coming out is Hellblade is apparently going to be only 30 FPS on
Yeah.
the Series X, not just the Series S. So there's no performance mode for Hellblade. And Hellblade is finally set to come out, I believe, next month. I don't have the date in front of me, but
But I believe didn't it also say 60 on like C? You can reach it.
I think it should be
Yeah, if
unlocked
I'm
on
not mistaken,
PC.
they said yeah, it can go 60 frames on PC, but 30 for.
Yeah, so I think with Hellblade, um, there is still the expectation of like you have a next gen system, so you should be doing, next gen is pretty much 60 FPS basically. You should be doing 60 FPS no matter what. And it just doesn't seem like every game is able to hit it. That's another reason why I'm just like I'm not really sold on the next system, because I feel like this system should have done it. For both the PS5 Pro and I guess the all white Series X, or
Yep.
if they actually do the cylinder one that leaked during the court documents or whatever. I just think at the end of the day, there was the 8K logo on both systems, and I think even the PlayStation 5 had 120 FPS at 4K. They literally put that on the box, and we're not actually seeing that with any of the games that people actually want to play. It's like, yeah, you could probably do that if you play in Pentiment, but I'm not trying to hear about the Pentiment specs. I remember seeing that for a split second. I'm just like stop it. Let's be real here. Like, you want to see that with Stellar Blade. You want to see that with Hellblade. You want to see that with all the new blades. Oh, the other blade. Yeah, you want to see that with Marvel Blade 2. All the blades need to be 60 FPS and above. Nothing needs to be 30 FPS, I guess. But I don't want to like harp on the game that bad, because I'm not a developer. I just feel like the messaging that they still said back in 2020 is not really coming to fruition. Like, it's not like consistent basically, from game to game. It seems to be like every other game, maybe we'll patch it, down the road, but not every game is giving you the full next gen experience that we were promised. And I think that's a problem, because we're also at the same time trying to introduce so much hardware, and everybody's not optimized for the software basically. I like the handhelds, for example. It's not even just like there's going to be an Xbox handheld. I mean, all the handhelds that we got, because I didn't even mention the other one, because the other handheld is I think it's called MSI Claw or something, or MS Claw or whatever. But it's like the fourth like handheld next to the Steam Deck, next to the ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion Go. And it's just like it's just too much hardware. It's like it's too much hardware, and the software is not keeping up. And it's like we can sit here with all these devices, but at some point I still want to play the game at its best. And imagine buying all of them and then like not one of them does anything at 60 FPS. Right? Like for the next game that comes out, that's like, this game could be played on, like, Hellblade should be able to be played on all of those handhelds and the Series X, right? But it's spotty when it comes to 60 FPS. We're talking about not not the Steam Deck, not the Series X, maybe if you have a $3,000 machine, maybe you get it. But everybody else, no. And it's like, for me, for example, I bought the ROG Ally, I bought the Steam Deck, and I have the Series X. Technically, I have a PC laptop. And from what I'm understanding, none of it's going to run this game at 60 FPS. And they're going to run this at 30 FPS. Maybe the ROG Ally might hit 60 if I drop this bad boy down to like 720p. Right? That's not next gen, basically. That's not really acceptable to me. Um, I don't have to be too harp on it too much. There's so many other games that I'm playing right now. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't gonna get to this right away anyway because of everything. So yeah, there's that. But you got anything you want to say about this Hellblade situation?
I just want games to be able to do hardware as promised. Right now, I have outside times I haven't seen a difference between PS4 and PS5. Right, and I'm sure many people probably feel the same way on some Xbox stuff. So, uh, this really is just why can't it just tap into it? Like, figure or stop trying to advertise it. Like, if you can't figure it out, you don't where until that is figured. Like, because now it just feels like a way. Other than that, hopefully, just the game is good.
Yeah. I guess we can move on. Interesting enough, we talked about Suicide Squads being probably done. This was probably tongue in cheek. We can throw it out there right now. But Will Smith had a game, right? Did nobody play it? Did nobody know about it? This is your topic. We can talk about it real quick. It'd be a nice tongue in cheek thing.
That was the main thing. That like you heard of this game, I didn't, but he had apparently a phone game that had $140 million put behind it called
That's
Undawn.
nuts that it was that much. That's nuts.
And here's how I found out about it when they said Will Smith's zombie survival game was a failure. And I'm like, what zombie survival game? Yeah, made by 10.
I saw
Uh,
the screenshots of like an animated face of his. That was like all I
yeah,
seen, and it was after the fact, and it was just everybody laughing at it.
yep. So
Uh,
apparently the game failed. It says the game was relatively unheard of. It was a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Flopped spectacularly. So they spent 140 million to make it, and it generated revenue of 287,000 because the market over in China mainly plays phone games.
yeah,
So they would have heard of it, but
but I mean,
it
there
makes
was
no
no
real.
marketing though. The only if you heard Will Smith's name, the only thing you gonna think about is his situation at the award show with Chris Rock. You're not gonna think of nothing else, or with his wife and all of that. But you're not gonna think nothing video game wise. Not at all. It would have been probably better if he had made like a quick slapping game or something, like where you just play as him where he just go slap people who make fun of him or something. That would have sold more, I'm sure. But I didn't hear anything until after the fact. For 140 million, you would think they would take 10 million and just do marketing or something. Like they
You
should
would
have had
think.
some marketing. I don't know. Or like how much would have went into him literally showing it on his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel that's very big.
Dang.
So like he could have
He ain't,
legitimately sat in front of the computer real quick,
he ain't
or
even play it.
like yeah, like and just say something about it. And they would have seen a return on
Appar-
investment.
It was first announced in March 2021, and a trailer came out in May of 2023. And that's how you found out Will Smith would be in it. It was released in June.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. But I guess it is what it is. I don't think it's gonna hurt his pockets too much. Not as much as maybe his, movies post slap. Because maybe he's not gonna
Ah,
get the same
they're already
deals.
doing well. They're already doing Bad Boys 4.
Yeah, that's a
They just
given
dropped
though,
the
and I
trailer for
think
that.
a shout out to Martin Lawrence too though, because I remember him saying, because initially they didn't want him in it, but he said he refuses to do the movie unless they bring Will in, and he held
Shout
out
out.
and fought
No,
and fought for him, which is cool because like what's going on with Will Smith is still more temporary. After a while, we'll probably forget about it a little bit, especially if we stop hearing more news about like Jada Pickett's like extracurricular activities.
if she stops talking, if she can deal with
Yeah,
not being around, we'll all be fine.
yeah. So yeah, we'll see more about that. I do want to mention one thing real quick before I get into one of my last topics. Rise of the Ronin came out, right? Rise of the Ronin, relatively positive reviews and everything from what I was seeing, but to sum things up, it's basically like this. If you're interested in playing that game, basically here's the gist of it. If you have already played Ghost of Tsushima, this game is good, but it's not as good. So your experience is gonna not be as good, basically. If you have not played Ghost of Tsushima, you want to play Rise of the Ronin first, so you get the most
Okay.
experience out of that, and then afterwards you play Ghost of Tsushima because it's considered a better game. That's as much as I could probably say about that. For everybody who already played Ghost of Tsushima, Rise of the Ronin is still okay. It's just not gonna feel as good as the experience that you had, but you're gonna feel similar, basically. That's the whole gist of it. Um, for everybody, so I hopefully that doesn't steer away anybody because I'm still gonna play that game. I just don't think it's something I want to play immediately. Unfortunately, but and that's a running thing for me right now. Unfortunately, it's just like it's a good thing that a lot of stuff is coming out, but you can't really just stop to play everything as it comes out. You know, like for example, on Nintendo side, they just came out with that Peach game, Princess Peach Showtime, I believe is what it's called. I actually bought it. I bought it because I wanted to get a discount through GameStop for it, because that was the only way I was going to get a discount. Other than that, that game was never going to go on sale. But that game is considered average. I think it's like more 7 out of 10 from what I've been hearing. Um, but that's a game that I don't think I'm going to even play this year, to be honest. I just bought it. And what's funny is I'm still relatively in the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, because no disrespect to Tears of the Kingdom, but by the time I got to the ground floor, I felt like it was Breath of the Wild again. I was just like, okay, I'll come back to this eventually. But yeah, it's just
I feel like there are some games where like you clear your schedule and you're just waiting for it to drop, so you're kind of just playing a little things out. Like that would be me with the original Batman. Or that what I play. Or Spider Man. How I right away. And then there's games where it's like
I think you're
I'll
cutting
add it
out a
to the
little
list.
bit.
So it's like those games where you're like, I'll add it to the list. And
Yeah,
that's what
yeah, yeah.
everything is.
Yeah, it's just I think the industry just needs to understand that too from the gamer's perspective. It's like you want to play everything, but you can't get around to it first. And the bad part is what we're hearing is just because you don't play something first, now their whole team and everything is getting punished for it. That's what we're hearing in real time, and it's just like if the shoe was on the other foot, you would have did the same thing. You only have 24 hours in a day, and every responsibility that you could think of comes before the game. So it is what it is. Um, but yeah, we can move on. This is an interesting topic that I have here. This is one of my last topics before we get into some of your other ones, but last gaming topic at least. But I've talked about the Playdate in the past as tongue in cheek a lot, and haven't really given it as much respect as it deserved. But I did say it is the system that has the most exclusives, which is still the fact. It's still the fact. Nobody, you're only gonna hear that here, but that technically is a fact. But an interesting thing that came up that I saw, that was actually real. This is a real story, but apparently, um, $400,000 worth of systems was stolen from whoever, from their warehouse or something.
From the
Um,
play date?
for the play date, that was a real thing. Now, somebody stole a bunch of these. I don't know how the details of it is. I don't know if it was just because of like a truck load or just a couple boxes full of them, because they really tiny. So I don't know how many of them you can fit per like big box, big Amazon looking box, but somebody loaded up a truck and just ran off with a bunch of them, I guess, or something like. But they lost $400,000 worth of systems. You know, I don't know what happened. I don't know all the details, but you would think because we've talked about this system, saying that we wouldn't spend, you know, it's $200. You wouldn't spend 200 on it, or at one point when it was very very brand new, it was 180. And then that's when I dove deep into all these other retro systems and got a couple of them and like really fell in love with them basically. And the reason was because I thought there were better alternatives at a much cheaper price where you were just playing just pure classics. And one of the things was that they were in color, right? But I didn't give this enough respect. But I just find it to be odd that at the end of the day, somebody stole some. like I'm just thinking if anything, you just buy, you know, your Playdates. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was just a security thing, or just
they were having them shipped, and apparently the crate that were being shipped went missing. So
that's
somebody
just
scooped up the crates and drove back out.
That's just nuts, man. It could have been a truck driver issue, because I don't know how much space that would have been taken up for just that 400,000. Because those units are small. I can imagine the boxes that they will all be in is small too. But it does seem like it would have been one like a fully loaded truck, like a trailer.
Yeah, it said 2 pallets.
That's crazy. That was that many
in Vegas. Yep.
That's just crazy. What do they do with it? Like, what do you? Because it's been a while. It ain't turned up. So it's like, well, what do you? Will you just hand them out or something on the street?
Apparently, they may have been misdelivered. So they may have been dropped off at the wrong place, and now I guess they're calling them on the street. Come get you especially if it's that person that's never heard of it. So they're just like, come get you a Game Boy with a crank, like, because they don't know what it is.
You buy it off the street, man. That's crazy. That's crazy because this is technically an all digital machine. It would be funny if like they could like brick it, but I don't know. That's crazy because I felt bad when I saw it. I was just like, because the way their update videos are and stuff, it don't seem like they just got money like that. It seemed like it's a passion project that all of those guys make a little bit of money on the side, but it's like crumbs. It's like really, so for them to get that type of hit, that's still a lot. That's a big hit for them. And I don't think they have, you know, proper insurance for something like this. Maybe they do, but it's a big hit for them because I don't want Playdate to just go away for these type of reasons or any other reason. I would like for it to be a part of the market and it could be as niche as it wants to be. But hearing something like this is really disheartening, but it does seem like it might be just a mistake. It might have just been, but like all the headlines were saying, no, it was just straight stolen. That's what they were saying. Maybe it's just because they wanted, you know, juicy headlines, but yikes.
So based off of if they meant like the $400,000 based off of how much they would have sold it for, that would have been 2,000 of them. So 2,000 of them was.
Yeah.
They've sold by February. They've sold 70,000, like a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So they have made some money. Yeah, so about 2,000 of them are missing.
Yeah, I just feel bad for them.
Let's hope it's positive. Let's hope the delivery truck just went to the wrong spot and now they got to redeliver.
Yeah, I will hope that they get a little bit more traction. Just in general, it might not be something that I would like to play all the time or something. I think even though like this is something that's more like a fidget spinner kind of thing too. It's like you pick the game up and you play something real quick and you put it down. Like, I don't know. There's no way any of those games are 50-hour campaign games. Like, they're not Persona type games. I could imagine each game might be 1 to 2 hours long. I don't know. But I don't know. Hopefully they can bounce back. Hopefully they can bounce back pretty fastly, and people, definitely support Playdate if you really want this type of machine. If you are somehow in the area where they're selling this out of their trunk, do not buy it that way. Go ahead and do it the official way, and support them so that they can keep doing their passion projects. There's only so much you can do, for a little bit extra money in this type of field. So yeah, interesting story a little bit. I think everything else Playdate going forward will go back to being more positive, even if it's tongue in cheek humor. Hopefully this is a one off thing. I don't want to hear this like ever again, basically. Um, but yeah, I guess we can turn back to something positive. You want to tell me, outside of gaming, I guess we can go into like a couple extra topics before we get out of here.
All right.
But X-Men, you mentioned, so this ain't really DC, but the X-Men 97 is a Marvel brand. What you're saying is
Yes.
great. Did you watch this whole thing?
Yes. So Marvel's been, on kind of a fall ever since Endgame. It's just been kind of going downhill a
Yeah.
little. Oh, I should also mention I've seen Madam Web. Terrible. It was such a bad movie. Uh,
Okay.
but X-Men 97 is really, if you were a fan of the original X-Men series, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're well versed in the X-Men comics. So there's been a lot of discourse online, with people throwing the word woke around, but it's
Yeah.
one of those. It's not. It's not woke. Like that was the issue. Is they handle their situations. Where like the original X Men has always been like sort of political commentary, but they've always handled it in a way where it's not like in your face preachy.
Mm-hmm.
The show's the same way, as it's always been. Some people were saying that the outfits made everybody look a little alphabet, but it's like, no, that's just how people dressed in the 90s. Like literally, they were just wearing 90s clothing,
Yeah.
uh, and uh, just I don't know. Like if all the outfits that they're wearing too, and the costumes, everything, are based off of their 90s
Yeah. Yeah.
images, and they're going off of the 90s like storylines. Uh, so they're really like everything that they're introducing came directly from. It's like a resource. Like this was the story of the comic book, and they're doing it on here. So they've been doing a fantastic job. The story's been great. I'm loving it. So if you haven't had a chance to check this one out, I definitely suggest it. You don't need to have seen the original X Men series. It helps. The less you've seen, the more things you'll have to Google off to the side just a little. Um, but other than that, yeah, it's good.
I've seen a lot of screenshots and stuff of it. Um, People are memeing it a lot, but yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes.
still relatively considered positive overall from what I was seeing.
Yeah,
It is
oh, and that
something that's on
Storm
my radar
actress,
to go watch, but yeah, go ahead.
sorry, that Storm actress is like just as emotional, and all of her delivery is like Angela Bassett, like
Mm.
top tier. And all of a sudden, everybody a Cyclops fan now. First
Yeah, I've
episode,
seen
I'm
some of
like,
that because I guess he had a cool scene or something where he kind of like
yeah.
jumped down or something like really cool, Superman-ish.
So it was that, and then he used his optic vision to like shoot the ground and blast himself backwards to dodge an attack. And it's because
Yeah,
up until this point, it's always been like laser vision. It's supposed to be a concussive force, like it's optic vision, it's something else. And this show actually does it. But I just remember like as soon as this happened, I was like 3 days ago, I was like, what a Cyclops. Now everybody's a Cyclops fan. Like I've always liked Cyclops, but yeah, great show.
yeah, I look forward to it. I look forward to it. All right, we're almost done. I guess you want to mention what's going on with like the banning of social medias and stuff real quick. Twitch
Yeah, so real
especially,
quick,
maybe. Yeah.
real quick. So Twitch is gone from South Korea, uh, And
Yeah.
they just released another rule. Apparently, some girl, she was like wearing green leggings and then would use that as the screen. She's playing games, but it's off of her pants.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I seen some screen footage of that when
that's
they
been
was
now
talking
banned.
about it.
Twitch was like basically showing off your body parts for no reason is now banned. It's like they're trying to find a way to phrase it. That was kind of what they said. It's like stop doing it.
Yeah,
See how long that. Then
they
TikTok,
gonna
of
keep
course.
innovating.
Oh yeah, TikTok is about to get banned. So hoping to stall it, TikTok has been trying to argue that it's generated over 14 billion for like small businesses because they've been able to advertise free off of TikTok, and they spent millions on doing a bunch of ads and everything to try and really integrate themselves. So
Cut
TikTok's
out.
doing.
You cut out. Can you say your
Oh
last
yeah,
sentence?
so TikTok spent a bunch of money
Yeah.
on ads, uh, and spent 14 billion for like said that they generated 14 billion for small businesses in hopes to not get banned.
It's weird. Like like them trying to ban it so bad is so weird and hypocritical too.
Yeah,
We ain't got to get too political with it, but it's really strange because I feel like like it like it's done harm for different reasons than what it's trying to get banned for,
yes.
but
Well, I just
is
this
they
article.
doing too much is what I think. But go ahead.
Kids need public school funding, not a TikTok ban.
Yeah.
So we're focused on the wrong stuff. But speaking of bans, uh, in Florida, social media is banned for kids under, I believe, 12. Or at least it's been signed by the governor. So kids under 14 are prohibited from having social media, and the kids between 14 and 15 years old, uh, you need parents' permission to have social media. So basically, if you're making like a Facebook account or something, you have to have proof of your age. You have to submit like an ID or something. You have to have some sort of proof of your age, or a parent has to like sign up for the account for you.
Yeah, I was also wondering like how that would affect YouTube Kids, cuz that's like the whole point is like they have like a whole YouTube Kid thing which is like it's its own thing where
Yeah.
I've seen like the crazy like some of those videos have crazy amount of views. Like
Yep.
way more than your average like regular YouTube view.
The
And
Barney.
what's really
Yeah.
weird about it is it'll be like a little kid playing with a toy. And it's like
Yeah.
kind of advertisement or something. But then it'll be like 70, 80 million views or so. I'm like, what in the world? But I just wonder, like, would they get rid of those kind of channels for somebody who lived down there? Obviously, the parent is making so much money that I would imagine they will move before they
Or
give that
I don't
up.
think so because again, like the parent signs off on it,
Yeah,
maybe. So it's like it just has to be labeled as the parent's channel that the kid's on, as
yeah,
opposed to the channel being made by the kid. I think that's the loophole that they're
yeah,
doing. So it's like I don't think it's like a 7-year-old can't appear on social media. It's a 7-year-old cannot be the owner of the Facebook account.
right.
But like they're saying if they're under 12, they can't be the owner of any of it. And then if they're 14 or under 14 rather, they can't be the owner. At 14 and 15, they could be the owner if the parent checks off a box.
Hmm.
That's their way of trying to ban kids from social media, get them off of it.
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
I think parents should just do a better job at explaining that the internet's a fake place. Like I don't know, like teach them that like what you see ain't always real. Like those people who are just traveling the world and vacationing for 4 years, they're building up credit card debt. And people who are jumping onto opinions, a lot of times they're just following the crowd or they're trying to be spicy so they can get a lot of community engagement to make themselves popular. Not everybody in the world is a fitness model and trainer. They're just taking pictures of themselves at the gym. Like, if you can explain that to kids that it's not a real place, like maybe less would, because I understood that stuff. So my mom did a good job explaining that to me, so I didn't always just like take the internet as word.
Right.
If we could train them on that, like that might be easier to trying to. It's just weird to me that if I wanted a Facebook page in Florida, I'm supposed to take a picture of my ID and upload it. Like, no.
Yeah, it's kind of doing too much, but it might also like slow down the weirdos too. Like you gotta show something that holds you a little bit more accountable.
True.
Um,
If you are being weird, your ID is tied to your Facebook page. Like,
yeah,
no information's on there, homie.
yeah. So it might regulate a little bit more. I just know it's doing too much for me. Like if they tried to do some of that here, I might have to say my final goodbyes to some people. I don't feel like
Yeah.
I want to give you my real information because at the same time, like Facebook has still been under fire for selling information to
Yep.
other companies for all these other things, and there's always a new active lawsuit against them for something like that, like every so many years too. So
And as many people getting hacked, and you want your ID with your date of birth and your address and
yeah,
your
I
race,
don't.
and your eye color
Yeah,
out there, like,
that's
no.
not good at all. Yeah. So it depends on what's the situation, but I don't think I would do that for any, even maybe even this channel, to be honest. I don't think I would put my real like info. Like I would have to there had to be some crazy super chats or something coming in. I don't know, for me to actually want to risk that. But as of right now, unfortunately, no. I just want to let me just be Supreme King in peace. That's all I want to do. But I guess we could move on to the final topic that I have here. Interesting enough because it's kind of breaking news in a way. Not really gaming, but the last couple topics wasn't gaming either. But I wouldn't mind seeing a game more than a movie. But apparently they're gonna do another sequel to The Matrix. The Matrix Resurrections was the last one. I am assuming they're gonna go off of that story or try to quote unquote fix it. It's kind of like how I felt about Last of Us 3. I was like, let's see what happens if they quote unquote fix it, because they know, reading between the lines, not everybody liked it. This one I think is more universal that did nobody like this movie. So I don't know if they're gonna reboot. I think it would be a better idea to do a reboot and not include Keanu Reeves. But I think from what I was seeing, they probably are going to still include Keanu Reeves, so it's not going to be a reboot. It's just going to be a continuation. It's just from that last movie, I don't know where you go from there. I really don't. But from my understanding, for the details, is one of the Wachowskis is still going to be involved, the same one from before, but there's a brand new director, and that person is now one of the Wachowskis is now just an executive producer. So
Yeah, that's what I heard.
a whole
That's right.
nother person is writing it,
That's
basically.
wild.
So, because before, if anybody's familiar with the other movie, light spoilers, but in the movie they basically broke the fourth wall a lot, like a lot in so many different ways to where you was just like, what am I watching? And I think the story behind that was even told in the movie, where they addressed that. They basically was saying that Warner Brothers was going to go with the movie even if there was not a real script, and you have until a certain amount of time to do that, or else we're going to go with it without you. And then the movie just became what it was, and it was kind of a disaster. Um, and I guess they're just like, hey, we're going to do another one. And I was just like,
I
well, I just think
could.
it would have benefited if this was, we'll do a game. This is a situation where I think they could have moved away from the movie and did a game, basically. Um, where vice versa, if you just do another movie, I don't think it's gonna work. I don't think another Matrix film is gonna work. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I could be one of the Wachowskis, and just be like, I'm now just an executive producer. Like, cause either they're gonna butcher my child more, or they're gonna do much better than me, and that's gonna hurt my feelings either way. Like I can't
Yeah, I
just
didn't
be hurt.
consider that. Like, if they just did like way better, if it was just so much better, like it's just like winning awards and people want more sequels and stuff, and it's just like it's almost like Fast and the Furious, where it's like now it's just never gonna die, and it's just because you took the other like director out of it. That would be interesting.
that would that would hurt so much.
Yeah,
Like,
especially if they got to keep coming back as a producer. And like behind the scenes, like on paper, they keep coming back as a producer, but as each movie goes on, they're doing less and less. It's just their name is still involved, but
dang.
it's almost like the Harry Potter chick that everybody hate. Like it's like you just get it's less and less, but you don't even get paid like that. You get paid like a producer, so it's like oh man.
Oh, that
So
would hurt. I'd cry.
because
Like
from
I'd
what
be
I
in a
understand, Warner Brothers owns it, even though they got the other person like involved. They
yeah.
own the franchise, so yeah. I'll watch. I'm not gonna act like I'm not gonna watch. It's a 1 2 hour movie. It could be as bad as like some of the Resident Evil content, but I'll still pay attention to it. I'll still watch it. But I think this would have been a situation where it would have benefited more if it was a video game, especially after they did those demos. Remember the Matrix demos that was like extra
Yeah.
realistic and stuff? It's like well you have like somewhat of a foundation here that you could probably reference from. Probably can't build off of it, but at least reference from it. Um, where that was still promotional material for Resurrections, but now you're saying you're gonna do a whole nother film. It's just I don't know if like there's no audience that really wants to see it like that. You know, I think we could have benefited from a game and also benefited from doing another franchise because that franchise was dead and it was like really like Resurrections was beating a dead horse. Like the first three films was like okay you did this trilogy, now you could put this movie series in the Hall of Fame. There was no reason to make another one. It reminds me of the Paranormal Activities and Scream and some of them other ones where it's just like after like Saw especially like after so many of them you could have really just stopped. And I think it's gonna end up being like that.
The Saw
I don't
11 is
think
coming out this year. I
yeah
think.
it's they're cash grabs. The next film is gonna be a cash grab. It's like we didn't make our money back on the first one, so we might throw away or throw together another one to try to still recoup the money that we lost in the first one. I just think that's a Hollywood thing. It's not gonna help. Cause people gonna probably still watch it in nefarious ways the way they did the Super Mario movie on Twitter. So
Right.
yeah. But I think that's all we got. We went almost a full 2 hours like back in the day. We could probably cut it here. This is a nice long episode. I'm back in action. You'll see more from me. Is there anything else you want to say before we get this off?
No, I enjoy games.
Yeah. Don't feel pressured to just buy a bunch of stuff just because it's brand new. If you don't think it's gonna be worth brand new money, you can still wait for a sale. And 9 times out of 10, if you do your research, you'll find a couple of videos or somebody out there who could pretty much tell you alternatives to some of these games that you could play while you wait for that game to go down in price. You are under no obligation to buy the game brand new. And even if you did buy it brand new, that doesn't mean like 100 other million people bought it brand new. And it doesn't stop the game from like, or the studios from shutting down, firing people and all of this stuff. Like those things were gonna, if those things were gonna happen, it was still gonna happen regardless of if you bought the game at $70 or not. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But yep, that's all I got for you here. So leave a like on this video and subscribe if you have not already. I will catch you on the next episode. We should be back next week as long as nothing else happens. We didn't mention that at all, but if you got anybody out there who are wrestling fans, big weekend coming
Australia
up.
weekend.
Big weekend coming up for y'all. I'm gonna catch everything like one day off. But yeah. Shout out to the final boss. But yes, that's all I got for you here. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll catch you next week. Peace.